Happy Friday! Welcome back to Drinking by Myself. But today's video is actually not about books. At the beginning of this year, I made a little unofficial resolution with myself that I wanted to go to the cinema more. Because I basically never go. I feel like going to the cinema is such a unique experience that you just don't get from watching movies at home. Firstly, you actually concentrate properly, because much as I tell myself not to, I do play on my phone when I'm watching movies at home. So it's just like this whole experience. Even if you don't like the movie that much, it's still really fun. You get snacks, you get your pick and mix. I bloody love the cinema! So I decided to go. And let me tell you, I have stuck to this resolution. So far this year, I have been to the cinema 11 times. And I have one more trip planned for December, so that will average out by the end of the year as once a month. Which might not sound very much for a lot of people who are much better than me at going to see the latest movies. But for me, this is a really big deal and I'm really excited about it. Some of those movies were repeats. When I love something, I really love it. Same as like when I hate something, I really hate it. So when I love a movie, I will often go and see it again. So I did do that with 2 of the movies on this list. But in this video, I'm going to tell you about the 9 movies, separate individual movies, that I've seen so far this year at the cinema, and the one that I'm still planning to see. So number 1, this resolution did take a little while to get going. The first movie that I saw this year was in April. I'm a liar! I just realised I forgot the first movie that I saw this year, which I actually saw in January. Stay tuned, I'm going to insert it at the end of this video. The first movie that I saw this year was a rather unexpected one. It was the new Avengers movie, whatever it's bloody called, Infinity War. So that was pretty unexpected for me because I haven't seen most of those other movies. I'm not really into superhero films. It was a kind of rogue choice, but I actually really enjoyed it, and I was worried that I wouldn't know anything that was going on because I saw Avengers 1, and I think that's it, out of the whole superhero movie universe. So I thought I'd be stuck, but you know, people talk about those movies enough that actually I pretty much recognised who everyone was anyway, and it's not that complicated. So I would give that movie-going experience like a 3 buckets of popcorn out of 5. Movie number 2 that I saw this year was Ocean's 8. And oh my god, I loved it so much. I was obsessed with Ocean's 11 when I was younger. We used to watch that movie a lot in my family. I never really understood the ending. We always had to rewind and watch it again because I could never quite figure out what had happened. People tell me it's not that complicated. I still maintain it's very confusing. And so I was so excited for the new movie, especially because I love Sandra Bullock, I love Kate Blanchett, I love Mindy Kaling. I knew it was going to be great, but I hadn't quite expected how emotional I would get about it. All those times I spent watching Ocean's 11 and thinking they were so cool. Obviously, they're criminals, don't go into crime, kids, but they're really cool and they're really suave. And as a girl, it had like never connected with me that I could be the cool, suave main character in a movie like that. Obviously, I'm not thinking that I now am inspired to go out and rob a casino, though I kind of am because it makes it look really cool. But it just made me feel like women can be badass, bad people too, and I loved it. So that was my first repeat viewing. I did go and see that movie twice because I loved it so much. I'm going to give that a 5 popcorn buckets out of 5. And now for movie number 3, which was the highlight of my movie-going experience so far in 2018, and that was Mamma Mia 2. I saw that movie 3 times at the cinema. I can't even put it on the scale of popcorn buckets out of 5. It's like a million popcorn buckets out of 5. I loved it so much. And I did not have the highest hopes for this film. I really liked Mamma Mia 1 because we went with a bunch of my friends and family. Loads of us were on the Isle of Wight for a holiday and we'd rented a big house and we all went to the cinema together, watched Mamma Mia and literally danced in the aisles. And we got this photo somewhere, I'll see if I can find it and put it on the screen, that I think one of the staff at the cinema took of us just dancing at the front. We loved it so much. So I've always had a really soft spot in my heart for Mamma Mia. And so I was very wary of them bringing it back 10 years later, especially all the rumours about Meryl Streep not being in it. I just wasn't sure how I felt about it. But then we went to see it. And I honestly could not have loved it more. It is so much better than the original one. It's so much fun. It's silly and carefree and moving, really moving. We were all in floods of tears. I came out and I was like, in all seriousness, that's the best movie I've ever seen in my life. And I think people thought I was joking, but I was like, no, that's the best film I've ever seen in my life. You can dance, you can try, just open your heart to Mamma Mia, it will make you happy. Movie number 4 that I saw this year was A Simple Favor. And I saw that one when I was over in Tennessee, and I really enjoyed it. I've had a lot of interesting conversations about this movie with people and about the book. Let me grab that. I know a lot of people who read the book and who saw the movie and didn't really get on with it, but I really enjoyed it. I think this kind of genre of story is just so perfect for me, where it's kind of just really tongue-in-cheek the whole way through. So it's a thriller, the characters are just awful, horrible people, and the way they act is kind of ridiculous and unrealistic, but I felt like it was very self-aware. That's how I felt. Not everyone did. I'd be really, really interested to know what you guys thought. I thought the movie was really fun. They made it more overtly a comedy in the movie than they did in the book. I made a book break episode about it. If you haven't seen it, I will put the link in the description below. I would actually give that cinema experience 4 popcorn buckets out of 5. So I thought it was a lot of fun. I laughed a lot in the cinema. And also, Blake Lively killed it in that movie. Firstly, she looks so good in suits. She should wear suits every day for the rest of her life. And secondly, she is a great comic actress. I had no idea. I haven't really seen her in that much other than Gossip Girl and Age of Adeline. So I kind of thought she's good at being beautiful and troubled and elegant. I didn't know she could also be brutal and hilarious. So watch it just for her. Movie number 5 was The Miseducation of Cameron Post. That's another one I have the book of. 1 second. I was really nervous before going to see this movie because the book was one of my favourite books I read last year. It is so powerful, so beautifully written. I gave it a 5 out of 5, this book, which I don't do very often. And I'm always really, really wary when my favourite books get made into movies because I feel like the movies never do a good enough job. And I actually thought this movie did do it pretty well. What they did that was interesting is only take the second half of the book. So the book is about a young gay teenager growing up in this rural, religious community. And the first half is about her various relationships with other girls. And then halfway through, she is found out by her family and sent to a conversion camp. And then the second half takes place in the conversion camp. In the movie, that's where it started, so the whole movie was set at the camp with none of the backstory. I did feel it wasn't quite as powerful without all that background, because I loved all that early stuff. I loved the relationship she built with these 2 main girls in particular, and I really missed that in the movie. I really, really enjoyed it while I was in it, and I probably would have given it like a 4 out of 5 when I first came out, but now that it's been a few months, it's kind of faded a bit. It hasn't stuck with me that much, so I'd maybe actually give it like a 3 out of 5. But I do really, really urge people to read this book. It's very, very beautiful. And also do encourage people to see the movie, because I love that movies like that are getting made. And even though it wasn't, for me, quite as powerful as the book was, it was still a beautiful movie. I just recounted my list and realised I said at the beginning of this that it was going to be 9 movies I'd seen so far. It's actually just 8 movies I'd seen so far. Wrong again! Because of the movie I forgot at the beginning, it is actually going to be 9 movies after all. Movie number 6 that I saw was Crazy Rich Asians, and this one was so much fun. I loved this. This was definitely a 4 popcorn buckets out of 5. It was just a really, really fun rom-com, but without a single white person in it, basically. And I have to say, I didn't miss them. It's a nice little break to not have white people ruining things all the time. Obviously, I'm not the right person to be talking about the representation in this movie. I'm going to link below to some of the other YouTube videos I've watched, of YouTubers that I've watched who actually talked about seeing themselves represented in the movie and how great that was. I can't speak to that on a personal level, I just know that it's such a positive thing, and I'm so happy to have seen so many YouTube videos from my friends seeing how this movie made them feel, and just like proving to the film industry that rom-coms don't just have to be about white people, they will still bring in massive audiences. I think it's been a great year for that, with To All the Boys I Loved Before doing so well. Oh my god, I loved that movie so much. And then with Crazy Rich Asians, so it's a really positive, changing time. But yeah, Crazy Rich Asians was a lot of fun. I can definitely see myself rewatching that movie once it's out on Netflix or whatever, at like a girls' night with wine and snacks and 4 Weddings and a Funeral and Crazy Rich Asians. Movie number 7, and here comes my controversial opinion on this one. I'm ready to get some angry comments. I went to see A Star Is Born and I hated it. Like 1 popcorn bucket out of 5, if that. No, definitely it gets 1 for the song. Shallow was a beautiful song and Lady Gaga was a very good actor in this. And Bradley Cooper was a very good singer. And that's where my good things I have to say come to an end. And I've had a lot of conversations with my friends who loved it. Basically everyone else I know loved this movie. I've had a lot of conversations with them about why they loved it so much. I really respect that interpretation of the movie. So I don't think it's a bad movie. It just was not for me. It was so badly not for me. My main big problem with the movie was that I felt it was really sexist. And I know not everyone feels that way, and like I said, I've had really interesting discussions with my friends who see it very differently, and that's a totally valid way of seeing it. But to me, at this stage of my life, I am not interested in seeing a tragic movie about female success ruining a man's life. And I felt like at the end, because of how the movie went, we kind of saw Lady Gaga's character give up certain things for her husband. I would really love to talk about this in more detail. It's really, really hard when you're trying to not give spoilers. But I did end up just angry about how the movie ended. I didn't think they needed to do that. And I know that that's the way those movies have always ended. This is like the 3rd or 4th remake of it. But I guess I'd kind of hoped that they might update that for 2018, or just not make this movie again, because I don't think that's a story that we need to be told. My other problem is a lot more superficial, which is just that I literally couldn't hear anything that Bradley Cooper said. He kept saying things and my friends in the cinema would cry and I'd be like, what did he say? So even before it got to the end and before I got angry, I was already kind of getting bored because I was like, what's anybody saying? What's actually happening in this movie? But I have been listening to the song Shallow on repeat. It's a beautiful song, and Lady Gaga, props to her. I thought she was really good. I wasn't sure if she would be able to act. I thought she nailed it. And finally, the 8th movie that I've seen so far this year, which I just saw last weekend, was The Hate You Give. And that was another one based on a book, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This was a book that I also read last year, or the year before, whenever it first came out, and absolutely loved it. It's so powerful. It's such a powerful YA book, all about the Black Lives Matter movement and police brutality. It's not a light, cheery read, but it's really amazing, and I thought the movie did a fantastic job of adapting it. I would give the experience maybe like 4 popcorn buckets out of 5, just because I was so sad the whole way through and my throat hurt from having a lump in it, but the movie was brilliant. One thing that I was really upset about was how hard I found it to find a screening of this film. It seemed to be on such a limited release, and I thought this was going to be one of the massive movies of the year. It deserved to be. This should have been one of the biggest films of the year, and I don't know why they were showing it so infrequently. It felt like the people who run the cinemas, didn't feel like this movie was important, and I thought it was so, so important. So that was something that I wanted to address, was I thought that was upsetting and a shame. But if you can find a screening near you, I really encourage you to go see it. It was a very powerful and important movie. Arj and I went to see it and we talked about it literally the whole way home, because there's just so much to pick apart in it. And it's so tragic that it's so real. The topic that the movie is about is stuff that is going on every day. This stuff is still happening and it really needs to change, and the movie really hammers that home. So those are all the movies that I've seen so far this year. The one movie I still have left on my list that I really want to see is Mary Poppins Returns, because that looks like so much fun. It's coming out right before Christmas, so I'm going to make my whole family go with me because it looks beautiful and I'm probably going to cry. I don't even like Mary Poppins 1 that much. It's kind of a weird movie, but this one just looks really lovely, and it's got Lin-Manuel Miranda in it. It just looks great. But now I feel like I have to add another one to the list, because I thought that that was movie number 10 and it's actually movie number 9. Don't panic, Emma, you didn't lie. You have seen 9 movies so far this year. Right at the beginning of the year, in January, I went to the cinema to see Pitch Perfect 3. I don't know how my friends managed to convince me, because I hate the Pitch Perfect movies. They're so bad. But I'll tell you something. Pitch Perfect number 1 is the movie I've hated most in the world. Pitch Perfect 2 I hated fractionally less than 1. It was still bad, but at least there was no vomiting in it, and I hate seeing people be sick. Pitch Perfect 3, again, hated fractionally less than the ones before. Still did not like any of those movies. I'm going to give that a 2 popcorn buckets. But I did it! That's 9 movies, so it will be 10 by the end of the year after all. And that was it, my random non-bookish video for today. So do give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button below, because I post new videos every Friday. See you next time!